For the resignation of County Judge Lina Hidalgo. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also talk with Houston Public Media reporter Michael Adkison, live from the Johnson Space Center about tonight's Artemis II mission launch.
And I'm Ernie Manous. Plus, we'll also learn about upcoming new workshop series at the Jung Center of Houston that's designed to help foster connections and personal growth for men aged 30 and up.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The U.S. Supreme Court is debating birthright citizenship. President Trump is challenging the constitutional provision that has long been interpreted to guarantee U.S. citizenship to every child born on U.S. soil. On his first day back in office, he issued an executive order barring automatic citizenship for any baby whose parents entered the country illegally. The order also applied to parents on a long-term visa. Solicitor General John Sauer is arguing for the administration.
Unrestricted birthright citizenship contradicts the practice of the overwhelming majority of modern nations. It demeans the priceless and profound gift of American citizenship. It operates as a powerful pull factor for illegal immigration and rewards illegal aliens who not only violate the immigration laws, but also jump in front of those who follow the rules.
Cecilia Wong, National Legal Director for the American Civil Liberties Union, says repealing birthright citizenship will have profound consequences for generations.
Swaths of American laws would be rendered senseless. Thousands of American babies will immediately lose their citizenship. And if you credit the government's theory, the citizenship of millions of Americans, past, present, and future, could be called into question. All of this tells us the government's theory is wrong.
Earlier, President Trump watched arguments from the gallery. He was the first sitting president to do so. President Trump says Iran's asking for a ceasefire. The Iranian government says that claim is false and baseless. But Trump posted on Truth Social this morning Tehran's asking for a truce and that the U.S. would consider it if the Strait of Hormuz were open again. Iran's blockade has choked off oil shipments, sending oil prices rising and many drivers in the U.S. struggling to afford gas prices that have shot up since the U.S. and Israel started a war with Iran last month. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the president will give the country an important update on Iran in a speech tonight at 9 Eastern. Here's NPR's Mara Lyson.
The televised address comes a day after Trump reversed himself, dropping his demand that Iran reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He had threatened to, quote, completely obliterate Iran's civilian electric plants, oil wells, and desalinization plants if Iran didn't open the strait shortly. But now he says the U.S. will be leaving Iran very soon, and if other countries want to get oil through the strait, they can, quote, fend for themselves. Trump says, we're not going to have anything to do with it. With gas prices in the U.S. breaking $4 a gallon, the president seems eager to find a way to end the war, even if many of his political objectives, including unconditional surrender, have not been met. Mara Liasson, NPR News.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 442 points, or nearly 1%. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. Engineers are fueling up rockets for the Artemis II mission to launch for the moon. The 4 astronauts flying in the spacecraft have a big day ahead of them. After several meetings to prep for launch, the crew will suit up and head into space. Here's Jeremy Graber, Artemis's assistant launch director.
They'll be checking with us to make sure that we're ready for them to come to the pad. And then they'll be on their way, headed out to the pad in the Astrovan, ready to get out to Launch Pad 39B.
This is the first moon mission in 50 years. Within 2 hours of their flight, the crew will be further than any other astronauts have been in half a century. NASA is expecting to launch around 5:30 Central Time this afternoon. Stay with us. News 88.7's Michael Adkison is at the Johnson Space Center right now, and he'll be live shortly on Hello Houston. here on News 88.7. Meanwhile, a new study by Texas Appleseed and United Way of Greater Houston finds that 14% of registered Harris County vehicles are uninsured. That compared to 12% statewide. The main reason? The huge jump in Texas rates in recent years has made car insurance too expensive for many low to moderate income residents. Anna Bedore leads the Fair Financial Services Project at Texas Appleseed.
People feel stuck. They feel like they need to have a car in order to function in their lives. And yet the cost of the car plus the insurance, and with the insurance cost going up and up and up, they're starting to feel like it's at a breaking point.
Texas data shows that the cost of car insurance has gone up by more than 50% in Texas since 2022. And Governor Greg Abbott is touting a plan to lower property taxes. In remarks to independent Texas oil and gas producers, the governor says property taxes should not be used to fund schools and promised to enact these changes during the state's next legislative session.
The state of Texas should be fully responsible for paying the public schools to educate our kids, not using your homestead for that payment.
Abbott did not say how Texas schools would be funded without property taxes, though. I'm Matt Harrop, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. This is NPR.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870. Or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome.
Hello. Hey. We are 1 year and 1 day old today. Recovering from our anniversary show yesterday. Oh, we'll even get to hear our music again. It is good to have made it past our first milestone, and now the future is ours. And speaking of the future, on today's show, we're going to be talking about what's going on at NASA.
Oh, yeah, Artemis.
It
looks like it might actually happen.
Well, I'm looking outside, Frank. Thank God it's not launching here. What is going on with this?
No, these are these showers coming off the Gulf that I told you about. So no big surprise there. And we're still looking for some wetter possibilities over the weekend. But I'm not giving up on Easter Sunday. There's always a chance that things come through on Saturday night and overnight and get out of here and leave us alone for Sunday, hopefully.
But like, Celeste, are you going to be out in the yard hiding eggs and then the kids look for them? And if you do that, I would assume you do it Saturday night?
No, early Sunday morning.
Oh, so if it rains Saturday night.
If it rains, well, it just depends.
If it's muddy,
the kids
you can shove
are
them
just,
into the mud.
And that you put them in bushes and things.
Have you ever hidden them inside the house because it rained?
Yes.
And did you forget where they were hidden and they started to stink?
Well, no, I
months later?
I won't do hard-boiled eggs. But, I want to say during COVID, Easter of 2020, I remember we were at home and we did the virtual, church. And we at that moment, we just had Evelyn. I was very pregnant with Philip. And I remember we hid eggs inside and it just...
Not the same.
It's not the same.
We never did the hiding of eggs.
An Easter egg hunt.
Yeah, no, we never had an Easter egg.
Oh gosh, that was one of my growing up traditions.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We were definitely not deprived of celebrating holidays. That just wasn't part of our tradition.
Yeah.
And because, as we mentioned before, I'm Greek Orthodox, so we would have sometimes our Easters. Most of the time, our Easter doesn't match. So on American Easter, as we called it, regular Easter, we called it Bunny Easter. And so that's when we got our baskets and chocolates and all that. And then we saved Greek Easter as like a more religious day and going to church and all that. But so we would get like double whammy Easter. But never had an Easter egg hunt.
So I have a parent confession. This last year, Evelyn caught me being the tooth fairy. And she woke up and I literally had like $1 bill in my head. I was like,
$1?
Yeah,
that's an expensive
$1,
right?
$1. And then she said, "Mommy, if you're the tooth fairy, are you the Easter bunny?"
Oh, she put it all together.
And I looked at her and I said, "Evelyn, yes."
Yes.
Yeah.
I cannot tell a lie.
I cannot lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and lie to your face.
I
and
hope
she
there are
was
no
like,
children listening right now. There should have been a disclaimer.
Oh,
on
I'm
this
sorry.
segment.
There should have been a disclaimer. But did
she
Philip,
go along for Philip?
Well, that was the thing. She looked at me and she's like, I can't wait to tell Philip. And I said, absolutely not. You will not be telling Philip.
Nope.
So
we play the game as long as we play the game.
So she'll look at me and she'll be like, the Easter Bunny is coming.
Boy, you are a lot like your daughter. You keep secrets as well.
I
just want to let you know, my version of this story you're telling in my mind's eye, I see you in a big tutu, like dressed up like a tooth fairy, because you always have an outfit for everything you do. And even at night at home, sneaking the money in, you would do that.
Funny. I see a glass of wine in one hand and a dollar bill in the other, and spilling it as you're trying to. Oh, what have I
worry,
done?
Frank, you're more accurate than I am in your versions of these things.
We want to thank you for joining us on Hello Houston
Such
today.
as it is.
As Ernie mentioned, we have a packed show today and rain. So how long do you think the rain is going to stick around?
It's going to be spotty here and there. I mean, it's just showers off the Gulf. But we haven't had those since last summer, you know. The southeast flow, and it's moist out there. And so we're going to see a little bit of a shower now and again. So grab an umbrella when you head out. Be prepared for rain now and again, but it's not going to be the whole day. Now, as we get toward the weekend, a front coming through could mean a much messier Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
But I'm optimistic.
Good. We need that. Optimism in this world today.
Well, there's so much going on with Easter brunches and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, if you are watching on YouTube and you think we have another co-host in the studio with me, because next to me, Celeste, who is sitting here?
Hello Kitty for Hello Houston.
How come we have Hello Kitty?
So yesterday, I got a call or message on, I think it was in Teams, and they said there's a delivery for the Hello Houston team, and we're not sure who dropped it off, but we want to tell you thank you for thinking of us on our anniversary. A little Hello Kitty for the Hello Houston team.
And there it is. It's
adorable.
It's our little
blue jean overalls, a big red bow. And it's full of what?
Candy.
Oh. It does sound like candy.
It is full of something.
Candy.
There's a little hole in the back. I don't know. I mean, we were told, Josh Adams was on the show yesterday to help us celebrate our anniversary. And he said, well, smash it on air.
No.
It's just so cute. I don't want to.
Too cute.
Well, have you seen those porch pirate videos where they steal the box and they run it to their car and it explodes and it's full of dust and paint and it's all over? It's hysterical. It's hysterical, but you know.
I'm worried what could be inside our Hello Kitty, but there's a little hole in the back and I've stolen some
It's
candy.
not car keys, that's for sure.
No, it's not. But I do want to say before we get into the headlines of the day, too, this was not the only thing we received in the Hello Houston offices yesterday. So, Celeste, there's a mystery afoot.
Oh, I received flowers.
Beautiful flowers.
Yes.
And the card said from?
A big fan.
And you thanked your husband, and he said,
those are not from me.
And then you thanked your parents, and they said,
those are also not from us.
So we have no idea.
You have a stalker.
We have no idea. But whoever sent those, thank you for sending those.
Don't say that. If it's a stalker, you don't want to thank them.
Well, they sent me flowers.
No,
no, Celeste, you're going the wrong way. No, you're paddling in the wrong direction.
And we've often
say, do not send me flowers if you are not related to me.
We've often been accused of going the wrong way, so let's get this back on track. As I mentioned, we'll be talking about NASA and their launch later today. We're also going to be talking about the Lover Lane murders. There is a crack in the case after 30 years. Sean Teare will be here to tell us the latest about that. But we always like to start the show off with headlines. So, Celeste, take it away.
Harris County commissioners are recognizing the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, but stopping short of calling for Judge Lina Hidalgo to resign after a recent controversy. On Tuesday, the Harris County Commissioners Court approved a revised resolution honoring the rodeo's impact while removing language that would have condemned Hidalgo. The dispute stems from an incident where Lina Hidalgo was escorted out of a rodeo concert after attempting to enter a restricted shoot area without proper credentials. She says security threatened her with arrest and used force. The amended resolution passed without the resignation demand, while Commissioner Tom Ramsey voted against the changes. What are your thoughts? Should the resolution have included the Lina Hidalgo paragraph, or did the court do the right thing? Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. You can call or text 713-440-8870.
I always think it's funny when we say the court when talking about commissioner's court and judge when we talk about Lina Hidalgo, because we go right to the idea of the black robes and a courtroom, and it's not. It's just a council that runs our
she's like the
Harris
mayor
County.
of Harris County.
Right, and they're the council members. But What are your thoughts?
It would have been political posturing, and it was
100%.
political posturing to even bring it up. And I think it needs to be left alone, and let's move on.
Yeah, you know what I've been ranting about in our office is like, oh, come on. Yes, I think the whole situation was unfortunate, and I don't think she should have done it, and I think it's problematic. But come on, in today's day and age of politics, we're going to ask for the resignation of someone in a political office because they asked for tickets?
Yeah.
When we've seen our AG and our president and all this other stuff with these huge scandals, and it's like, wow,
Right, and I agree with Frank. It was just a lot of political posturing. I think it is important to note that Commissioners Leslie Briones and Rodney Ellis voted, to pass part of Commissioner Ramsey's resolution, recognizing the rodeo's accomplishments, but taking out that part of having Lina Hidalgo apologize and resign.
And let me point out, in retrospect, she was gone. She was out of Houston for the second part of the rodeo. Remember?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe she was trying to see as much of the rodeo in the week that she was here as she could to support the rodeo and to take her friends. And she needed the tickets. And she said, I want to support the rodeo, but I'm not,
Okay, Frank, we're fighting
look,
here.
We get media passes and get them free to the rodeo.
Yeah, no, but that's not an issue. The fact is, she had tickets to the rodeo. She had a box to go to at the rodeo.
And she said, I have been on the dirt every night I've been here, or several nights that I've been here. What's the big deal? You know who I am.
And
why
they had
is tonight
sent
different?
a message to her office saying she would not be able to go on the dirt that night because it was sold out and they didn't have access for her.
And I think
she still went
and
down.
She got the message?
Yeah, went to her office, and I think they have acknowledged
she got
that.
it.
They have acknowledged, the office has acknowledged hearing it, whether her people shared it or not.
I know she was embarrassed. I have friends too. I know she was embarrassed by the incident. And I think maybe she was there. Honestly, I wouldn't want to go to the rodeo every day. It's a lot.
But that's not the issue.
lot.
Celeste, what are you trying to say?
What I'm trying to say is that the key question isn't whether Lina Hidalgo should be criticized or made to apologize. I think it's whether that criticism belongs in a resolution meant to honor the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo.
Because that's become the focus of this conversation, isn't it?
Right.
So let's talk about how successful the rodeo was.
Correct.
And all the huge amount of money that they raised, top lamb, top wine, top beef, everything.
It is the largest rodeo in the world. I mean, that is a title. Right. That's a big title.
And I think, if the commissioner's court wants to admonish her for it and say that behavior was not becoming of this position, that's absolutely fine. You do that.
Go for it. In your own area.
But the resignation part is just like you've been saying. It's political posturing. It's like saying, look at what we are pushing for. We've got comments coming in. Alex Gard says, I don't think resignation is warranted here, but she should face real consequences, perhaps a 2-year ban to reflect the seriousness of the matter. I even think that's going a little bit too far.
Alex, getting thrown out of the rodeo with the police escort is pretty real consequences.
Yeah, I think she
being
got
all over the
embarrassed.
media and
She
all
learned.
I don't think she's going to try it again.
Resident 8 says, apologize, yes, resign, wishful thinking.
I think it sends a message to a lot of local elected officials and also names, here in Houston saying, it doesn't matter who you are, you still have to follow the rules. And I have to give it to the rodeo. I think that they did the right thing by saying you don't have tickets. We've already given you tickets before.
Well, especially when it's security.
Yes.
She did have tickets. She had a suite.
Right.
It was security that said, sorry, ma'am, you can't come here. And when security is told don't let anyone in without tickets, that's what should happen.
And I just want to clarify, not her security, a rodeo.
Rodeo security.
Rodeo access.
Right. I mean, she had suite tickets.
And that might even be in the contracts of the performers.
Now,
saying
flip side of all of this and what brings her to her position, not that we want to relitigate that part of this whole story, but that other county judges in the past have moved through the rodeo unimpeded by security or checkpoints simply because of their position. And her argument being, why now have you decided to enforce it when it's me? Is there something about me that's her issue?
And why now?
That's a big assumption. But I also think that's a big assumption to say, well, everybody else does it all the time.
Right. Well, she's been doing it for 6 years. If she's been getting through every night and every time she's ever gone to the rodeo since she's been judge, and now suddenly this has happened, I would be a little bit, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Okay, 713-440-8870. What do you think about all this?
I like Lina Hidalgo, by the way.
Well, I'm happy for you, Frank. Moving right along to another story that I'm sure you're hearing about. The U.S. Supreme Court, speaking of hearing things, is hearing arguments today on whether President Donald Trump's order limiting birthright citizenship can take effect. The executive order was signed a year ago on January 20th, 2025, and it would deny citizenship to some children born in the U.S. to parents here illegally or on temporary status, challenging a long-standing interpretation of the 14th Amendment. Lower courts have already blocked the policy, calling it unconstitutional, so it has not taken effect. The case now puts the issue squarely before the High Court, with potentially far-reaching implications for immigration policy and who is considered an American citizen. Now, also to add, of course, because it's the Trump administration, there's a wrinkle here. In an extremely rare move, President Donald Trump is sitting in on today's Supreme Court hearing, making him the first sitting president to attend oral arguments at the nation's highest court. What are your thoughts on birthright citizenship? And even more so, what are your thoughts on the president attending? 713-440-8870.
I'm not sure why we're challenging long-standing interpretations of the 14th Amendment.
I know why.
I would argue because we can. That's what they're thinking.
Because we don't want people coming here. Look, there are tours from foreign countries that are all about birthright tours. And you get on an airplane, you come to America, and you have your child, and that child is an American citizen. There are millions of people that could come to this
citizenship
country.
Tourism or something.
Citizenship tours. I mean, it's designed from Asia.
I actually have never heard of that.
Oh, yeah, from Asia. There's like 500 tours a year of people just ready to come to this country and have their baby.
They pay a good fee so that they can have their baby as an American citizen. And in a lot of countries, that gives them dual citizenship. So
I see where Trump's going with this, but that's wrong. And so I don't think you should necessarily just be a citizen because you were born on American soil.
But it is
long-standing tradition.
And law.
1890s was when the case wasn't it? With the Chinese.
The implications.
Reinterpretation of it came then. It was a civil war.
I mean, this is going to have sweeping implications.
Absolutely.
For immigration policy and the definition of citizenship in America. I mean, will absolutely have I think it's, to me, not something. I don't think
it worries
he's in the right
direction. It gives
direction.
somebody the choice to decide who is a citizen and who isn't. If this goes through, then it's saying, well, we don't think you were lawfully here, so your child is. We think you were, so your child is.
That's the problem.
That becomes the problem. When you have an absolute, it makes it easier to decide things.
Right.
Born here, they're a citizen. End of story.
Yeah.
Now you open it up for interpretation. And smarter minds than all of ours in the different courts leading up to this have all turned it down and said, no, it's not legal.
Yeah. The lower courts, have blocked it and said this is unconstitutional for now.
Well, it is. It is unconstitutional.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of changing the Constitution.
Well, we'll find out what the Supreme Court thinks of it.
Roe v. Wade was considered constitutional for 50 years, and then it was considered not constitutional.
Yeah. I mean, neither of my parents were born in this country, and they are U.S. citizens. My grandfather was in the military in Panama and everything, but they weren't, all of a sudden.
Ooh,
guys.
Celeste, nice to know you. See you later. No, but the thing is, my bigger issue in this entire story is Donald Trump going to the Supreme Court. I feel like I'm watching an episode of The Sopranos or even the Godfather movie, and someone's about to say something, so they send the big guy into the court to sit in the back and just grimace, and it intimidates the witnesses. I do not like that part of it. I'm very upset about that.
It is absolutely an unusual move, right? And it really does add another layer of attention that already exists. This is a very high stakes case, and so
it's for future. It's not for past.
Right.
Like Noah Espinoza on YouTube says, if they can just take away birthright citizenship, then who's to say I don't wake up tomorrow morning and I'm no longer a citizen just because of my last name? Mm-hmm. Well, this is not for people who are already alive.
Okay, but I'm going to push back on that. Today it's not. But if that gets passed, what next? There's another case going. Last night, Donald Trump signed an executive order about mail-in ballots, which nobody's talking about right now, and eventually we'll get to it. And that is horrifying about how they're limiting who can vote in this country. Meanwhile, we've got this going on. And somebody sent us a text that said Trump should resign for sitting in on the hearings. Yeah, if you're gonna go after somebody for being somewhere they shouldn't be because it's inappropriate, Lina, sit tight. Pass the mic over to Donald Trump.
You know how hard it is to actually get to go into the Supreme Court and sit there?
Not when you're Donald Trump.
Well, that's
when you're famous, privilege. They let you do ththese things.
And again, 713-440-8870. We have a call from Michael from Katy. Michael, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Michael, you there? Can you hear us? Oh, I hear some beeping and stuff. His phone is on, but I don't think he knows. I bet he's listening on the radio, and there's the delay, and he hasn't gotten to us.
Maybe.
Michael, we're going to put you on hold, see if we can pull you back in a second. Otherwise, thank you for calling.
Wine Goddess says there's a way to change the law, but Trump wants to leave Congress and voters out of it and accomplish his goals via executive order.
And that, I think, goes back to the voting thing, because that one has...
Well, Charles Williams says, I don't think the president's going to be able to intimidate any of the justices. I agree with you, Charles. I don't think they care.
I think they do. Clarence Thomas?
I don't think... we already know how Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito are going to vote. No, they're a given.
All right, let's go back to Michael. Michael, you're on the line from Katy. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I'll try again. Hey, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, what are you thinking?
I am cautiously optimistic. Try to keep a positive attitude and not overthink the situation and about what's going to come out of various sources, including the president himself. And so, in 2 words, cautiously optimistic.
Okay, Cosmo. I don't know if I missed.
I don't know what the point is.
Can you elaborate
optimistic
on this?
About what?
What is the outcome you're looking for?
I'm looking. That's a tough one. So, I'm looking to. I don't have a judgment on the black and white of the ruling, so to speak. Right. I'm just looking to hear if it goes one way and certain sources want to go another way.
Oh,
or just go with the herd, not in a overly herd mentality, but from a traditional American way of democracy.
Okay, Michael, thank you for calling. What I'm taking from Michael is let the process play out. Let's see what the arguments are. I will tell you, I started listening to the beginning of it because then we had to get ready for the show, so I couldn't listen to the whole thing. And yeah, the president's side is making some valid points. The reason for birthright citizenship had a very specific reason when they started it at the Civil War period about children of slaves and what that meant for they are citizens, because they even brought here against their own will. They are now here and have built a life here, and therefore their children should be. And then it expanded, as you said, when it came into immigrants later in the 1800s. So there is a history to this and how it evolved and how it has been interpreted over the years. So it'll be interesting. I didn't hear the other side arguments, which I'm sure are extremely strong. So it's going to be interesting. And I do think it's interesting now, last thing I'll say on this, how they're always interpreting from the questions of the justices how they're going to vote. There seems to be that's a whole new racket of like, well, they asked this, this, and this, so therefore when the decision comes out, it's going to be that way because that's where their interest lies. So I'm really fascinated.
Well, a lot of them are former, not interns, but associates of the justices, and they kind of know the way they think.
Right.
And it's like when my justice would ask these questions, they were leaning toward this or leaning toward that. So they're pretty good at interpreting.
Well, we'll be following it all along. Yes, Celeste.
Oh, we're getting quite a few YouTube comments. Chef Rob says, it is a privilege to be an American citizen. No one deserves to be one. Why should people that flout our laws be rewarded? So
interesting point. You can take a poll right now on our YouTube chat about should being born in the U.S. automatically grant citizenship. It's over in the chat group on YouTube. And when you're done, we'll read the results in a little bit.
And again, coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with HPM reporter Michael Adkison live from Johnson Space Center about tonight's Artemis launch. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Meet Tio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
Many employers sponsor matching gift programs. doubling, or even tripling employee contributions. It's an easy way to maximize your impact on the programs you rely on. Search for your company and get started today at houstonpublicmedia.org/match.
Houston Matters highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. And we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen. So subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
Support comes from Woodlands Waterway Arts Festival. Over 200 artists, authors, music, food, and family activities at the Woodlands Waterway. April 10th through 12th. Open for kids 12 and under. Tickets at thewoodlandsartscouncil.org, where dreams take shape.
Support comes from Base Power. As hurricane season approaches, Base offers energy plans with automatic whole home battery backup with new extended outage protection. Eligibility details at basepower.com/NPR. Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Central Market Catering with full heat and serve multi-course meals for brunches, dinners, and Passover Seders. More at centralmarket.com/catering.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
The countdown for the launch of the moon-bound Artemis II mission continues. For now, the launch from Cape Canaveral later this evening remains on schedule, though cloud cover and strong winds could still force another delay. Houston Public Media's Michael Adkison is watching the incoming news from NASA closely. Michael, how are things going? How are things looking out there?
Hey, good afternoon. I think or maybe it's still morning. I've been here since 6:30, so my time of day is a little bit off, but we are just about 6 hours out from the launch of Artemis II from Cape Canaveral. Things are very exciting. NASA has said that, we're not going to say 100% one way or the other if we're launching or not, but all indications are they are very enthusiastic that this is going to be done today and that they're moving forward. Right now, they are fueling up the rockets. They are nearly done with that. And so what they're going to get into is their closeout operation. So, getting the astronauts where they need to be, making sure they're up to speed on everything they need to know in these final moments leading up to this potential historic launch, guys.
Hey, Michael, you're the expert on this one, although I think I know the answer, but we had someone ask, what's the big deal about weather? Planes go through clouds and wind and even worse all the time. Why does it have to be such perfect weather to launch a rocket?
Right. I don't know that it's so much perfect weather as much as it just needs to be ideal weather. This is planes have to make emergency landings all the time. You really got one shot with this to make sure that it gets up into space. They can't just, divert and land at another airport. So really it is making sure they have ideal conditions that they're going in. Wind obviously could impact the rocket and how it moves and, the trajectory of it going into space and little things like that. So, it's really just making sure that the ideal opportunity is there, that they're going to take advantage of it and not have to say, okay, we've got to shift gears, we've got to make plans. And it's a very different circumstance, but I will say weather is one of the primary factors that contributed to, previous disasters in NASA's history. Challenger is the one that comes to mind, that, it was weather and it was too cold outside for the seals to operate correctly on the rocket. That really contributed to this. So weather is front of mind when it comes to safety and making sure that these flights are going as safely as possible into the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's good to have a visual all the way as far as you can, too.
Sure, absolutely.
And, Michael is live from the Johnson Space Center. So, Michael, what is it like there currently? Are there do you feel the excitement? Are there a lot of people?
It's funny you should ask that. I'll compare it to what I said this morning on Houston Matters, which is, the excitement right now is on Florida. That's where a lot of people are watching this launch from. There are a lot of folks that are out there at Cape Canaveral, but basically from the moment the rocket lifts off the ground, it's going to be the folks here at the Johnson Space Center that are taking over this mission. We've got flight controllers and flight directors that are going to be here watching this as it all goes on. And so, a lot of the attention right now is on Florida, and rightfully so. The launch is very exciting, but the pulse of this mission is going to be here in Houston. And so, you're not feeling so much the excitement today, all of which to say, I think the excitement is over in Florida, but there is definitely this attitude of, okay, we're here. We made it to Artemis II. We'll see what happens. And so I think that we're going to see a lot more energy come as the rest of the mission goes on here in Houston. We're going to do daily press briefings here at the Johnson Space Center. And especially once they get to the moon, which, if they launch today, they're planning Monday is when they're going to do their lunar flyby. I think that's when you're going to see a lot of excitement here in Houston.
Okay, so we talked about this a little bit yesterday and about the new technologies that are in play to do this particular mission. It's been 50 years since we've done it. The thing that fascinates me that I heard yesterday, and correct me where I could be wrong, not only is this an impressive rocket, it is the largest rocket weight-wise that we have ever sent up. There is a lot going on here to get this thing up into the air. A lot of, I guess it's nitrogen, hydrogen, whatever is lifting it. This is a massive undertaking, which does explain why the delays and making sure everything is right, because if something went wrong, it could go very wrong.
You're 100% right. This is the most, the phrase that we would use, and part of this is because of the systems that we're using, part of it is because of the infrastructure. This is the most complicated launch that NASA has ever taken on. Something like 8 million pounds of thrust when it launches off the ground. They're going to reach supersonic speed at a very rapid pace. So, this is all happening so quickly. And yes, this is the most powerful rocket they've probably ever built. So that's one of the reasons why there's this emphasis on making sure that we do this mission so that way we can get that muscle memory back in the future and do these yearly annual trips to the moon and other spots in space. So because it has been more than 50 years since we've done a launch quite like this one, the new NASA administrator, Jared Isaacman, has really emphasized that there needs to be more launches like this so that way it doesn't feel like we're kind of stiff-muscled and can really handle this and can do this on a better turnaround and more quickly so that way it's not, again, 50 years between such lunar launches, then you can feel more of that muscle memory and get the launches going quickly.
And I'm curious about tonight. We're expected to have a full moon. Does that change anything at all?
We're expected. No, we're
going to have a full moon. Okay, it's going to happen just hours after the Artemis launch on its mission. So they'll be flying around a full moon. How does that change things, or does it have any effect at all?
Yeah.
It's not going to change anything about what happens, aside from the fact that I think it's going to make this mission feel a lot more personal for a lot of people who are watching this. One of the questions that a lot of the astronauts and the NASA administrators get asked a lot is, when you're walking around at night, are you looking up at the moon and what do you see? And so a lot of them talk about no longer seeing the moon as this orb in the sky. It's a destination. It's somewhere that they're actually going to go to. And so I think the coincidence, shall we say, of a full moon tonight is really going to make this mission feel a lot more personal and a lot more like, oh, that's where they're going.
Well, and that's my second question here is, I don't remember a lot of late afternoon launches. Seems like it's always in the morning or right before noon. Is it because of the full moon maybe? Because we talked yesterday to you about the gravitational pull and the slingshot effect, and that's going to be a part of all of this. Is the exact hour of the day the important part of today? Because why so late in the afternoon? Like 5 o'clock launch or something?
That's a good question. And NASA has identified their launch windows and hasn't really elaborated much on the process that went into coming up with that launch window. But again, it has to do with the gravity and the timing and the way that it all works out of where the moon is positioned when the Earth is positioned. But I believe I said yesterday that that's one of the big questions was, can we, if we don't launch today, the other opportunities this month would be even later in the day. So it would be in the dark of night when Artemis II launches. So this is really the best opportunity to launch in the daytime when people can see it. As for the lateness in the day, I think that was something that people were I don't know that there's a coincidence per se in the timing of it, because I don't have NASA's formula in front of me of how they came up with these times. But I do think that was something that they were very excited about, was the idea that this isn't going to happen at nighttime. This is going to happen in the light of day when people are going to be able to see it, and people are going to be awake to see it, I will say. Some of those launches at the later dates in the launch windows were, 10, 11, even after midnight, some of them.
Okay, a few months back, we were all excited. We'd go see the International Space Station flying overhead. Can we see any of this from here? I know there may be cloud cover over there, but if there weren't, would we be able to see anything here?
I don't believe you'll be able to see anything from the ground here. What I will say is that NASA is going to be live streaming this mission 24/7. They've got views from the spacecraft itself as it's flying through space, and they've also got coverage of what's exactly happening, all the little details. So like I said, assuming that they launch today, which all signs are pointing towards that they will, the lunar flyby will be happening on Monday. And they're going to be offering coverage of, the views from the spacecraft as they're approaching the moon. There'll be some times where, when they're behind the moon, for example, we won't have coverage because we don't get a signal from them. They're behind a whole moon, and so that signal's not getting back to us here on Earth. But there are lots of ways that people are going to be able to watch this from home. We're going to be covering the launch this afternoon right on Houston Public Media with a live special as they take off. So lots of different opportunities. And of course, NASA is going to be providing that 24/7 live stream.
We're going to mention that live coverage in just a minute, but a real quick other side note, and I'm curious what the feeling is there about this concept that's out there that some people are feeling this is rushed and being pushed. And even though there have been the delays, that there's a push from the administration that they want this notch on their belt. And so they're going to go ahead with this. Is there any concern that have they addressed the pressure they get from outside compared to the security and the delays they're taking within the organization?
Yeah, I honestly, it's tough because there is this attitude. I think that, leading up to today, as I mentioned, I believe yesterday, there wasn't another dress rehearsal since they solved those issues. They do feel confident in the infrastructure, and they've said, they've checked all the boxes, that they've, fixed all the problems that they think they can, and that it seems a little quiet right now in terms of word coming from NASA about what's happening. But that's not because things aren't going well. It's because they just haven't run into any issues thus far, is the word from NASA. In terms of the timing, there's actually been a lot of criticism of how long it's taken to get to this point, that, we've spent billions and billions of dollars on the Artemis program thus far. And it's been 3 years since the last Artemis I. So this idea of ramping up the missions, by comparison, I believe I mentioned the Apollo missions were something like 6 months apart from one another. So, this effort of really overhauling NASA to do more missions, more lunar missions, is a way to make sure, as they would say it, that taxpayer money is being spent appropriately to give taxpayers kind of what they want, which is these lunar missions and these space missions. But it is also a way to, again, get that muscle memory going. And so that way it doesn't feel like quite the event when we go back to the moon like this.
I know, Michael, that Artemis is going to orbit the Earth for about a day before it starts heading toward the moon. But it's probably going to be too high for us to see, is my guess, unlike the space
space shuttle.
Space shuttle up there.
No.
Because we see that
Space
a lot.
station.
Space station, sorry. Because we've seen that a couple of times,
yes.
right? Celeste kids think more of me because of it.
They do.
So are we going to be able to see Artemis as it goes around the Earth, or is it going to be too high? Do you know?
It's actually going to be too high. You've got a small, it's not quite as big as the space station. So the space vehicle itself is a bit small. But on top of that, it is in almost, I believe the timing is going to be less than 2 hours. It's going to be in high Earth orbit, which is further than anything has gone in the last 50 years. So it's not going to be very long before, not only is it out of our sights, it's further than we've gone in 50 years, just within a couple hours of the flight. So not very far at all. I may have mentioned this before to you guys because we've talked a lot about Artemis II on this program. Someone recently told me that when the space station is in orbit and it's right above Houston, it's about as far from us as Dallas is, that they're both about 250 miles up and away from one another. Or,
crazy.
Dallas is 250 miles, the space station is 250 miles in the sky. So, it doesn't take a whole lot to go very far, farther than we've gone in 50 years.
Well, It'll be interesting, too. There's a lot of space junk up there. I mean, literally,
right.
Old satellites that are up there not doing anything. 3,000 or more satellites up there that are orbiting the Earth that provide internet access around the globe. And hopefully those are not in the way, right? I mean,
I don't have the quote exactly in front of me, but I actually know someone was asking about this in a press conference yesterday with NASA officials, and one of the officials said, that's just something we take into consideration. We look at what's up there. We look at if this is in the trajectory or what have you, and if we need to wait just 1 minute or even 30 seconds to delay the launch a little bit to make sure it wouldn't hit that orbiting above us, they take that into consideration.
So this is an exact to the second launch, really?
For the most part, yes, it's to the second. They'll delay it by a few minutes, 30 minutes, an hour if they need to. But yeah, they've got this mission mapped out almost to the second. And that's one of the things, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's actually one of the things that here at Mission Control at the Johnson Space Center, that they actually are making sure this mission follows the timeline they've set out for it, that we made this plan. At this hour, you're going to be doing this. At this minute, you're going to be doing this. And so the Johnson Space Center, the flight directors are making sure that they follow that plan.
Last quick question for you. Given the choice, or the chance, I should say, would you fly up there?
Oh, I love this question. I used to be someone who was 100% yes. Ooh. Now I'm like 80% yes. What I found really interesting, I know, right? What I found really interesting is, I've been talking to a lot of young people for a story that I'm working on about whether, what interests them about space and space exploration. And these are people who have a vested interest in space, whether they're studying it in college or whether they're just, interested in space exploration as a younger person. And I love asking them, would you go to space? And I'm decently surprised by how many people say no. That these are people who are interested in space, love space, want to talk about space, and want to make sure we go into space, but they don't want to do it themselves. I just find that so interesting.
Yeah. Michael Adkison is a reporter from Houston Public Media. Thank you so much for reporting live from the Space Center, Houston. Again, Michael, thanks for keeping us updated.
Yep. Thanks, y'all.
And make sure to follow the launch live with special coverage from Houston Public Media beginning at 5 this evening on News 88.7 and Houston Public Media's YouTube channel, featuring live reports from the launch site in Florida, from the Johnson Space Center, and from the Public Watch Party at Space Center Houston, hosted by Houston Matters producer Michael Haggerty. Michael's going to be out there as well. And again, pending any changes or updates from NASA, that's slated to start today at 5 on News 88.7 and Houston Public Media's YouTube channel. Coming up, a new program out of the Jung Center. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Meet Damola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Damola to learn more about his ride.
Are being reached without the United States.
I'm Kai Rizdal, the rest of the world taking its trade and going home. Next time on Marketplace.
You can listen to Marketplace at 6:30.
Few trillion-dollar multinational corporations have inspired as much mythologizing as Apple.
Apple was always placing itself in that role of being countercultural, claiming that they want to make the world a better place.
I'm Scott Detrow. A look at the legacy of Apple 50 years after the tech company's founding on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Listen this afternoon at 3 o'clock on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Theater Under the Stars, looking on the bright side of life with Monty Python's Spamalot. On stage at the Hobby Center, April 15th through 26th. Tickets available at tuts.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from St. Luke's Health and the St. Luke's Foundation, supporting clinical excellence, compassionate care, and a healthier future for all. More at supportstlukes.org.
Listening to the news can feel like a journey, and 1A is the place for daily conversation that guides you beyond the headlines. We bring together thoughtful guests and listeners from every state to help us take the pulse of America. I'm Jen White. We'll get to the heart of the story together on 1A.
"1A", weekdays at 2 p.m. on News 88.7.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
The Jung Center of Houston is an area nonprofit educational and cultural institution that aims to help make depth psychology, the arts, and the humanities more accessible to the community through its many classes, programs, and workshops. Later this month, the center will introduce Celebrating Change to Create Our Best Selves, an intergenerational multi-session program that's designed to help foster connection, understanding, and personal growth for men aged 30 and up. So to tell us more about the Jung Center and this new workshop series, we're joined by Sarah Garcia, Director of the Community for Conscious Aging at the Jung Center of Houston, and Jim Benton, a certified clinical sexologist who will serve as the program's instructor. Sarah, Jim, welcome. Jim, welcome back.
Thanks for having us.
I mean, when we see the word sexologist, we all get excited.
Don't.
So, I know, right? So tell us what is going on here. Men over 30, we know a lot of times we don't get paid attention to like we should.
We don't. And you know, Sarah works with the Community for Conscious Aging. What that's really all about is about addressing people within our age bracket, because there's a lot of us 55 plus people out there. Well, Sarah can probably tell you more about that than I can.
Yeah. So the Jung Center was actually founded by a small group of women who were interested in applying Jungian concepts to their everyday practical life back in 1958. And the Community for Conscious Aging is one of the latest initiatives. And it was founded similarly by a group of friends that were just having casual conversations, wanting to explore what it means to age intentionally. And so from that, they started inviting speakers, volunteering, just allowing the initiative to grow organically. And now we're about 2,200 participants.
So what are men over 30 not doing that they should be doing?
You know, I think the biggest problem we've got is, well, it's three-pronged, honestly. Guys have a special thing that guys are supposed to be guys, okay? Women, on the other hand, have, I think, the talent to have a more closer-knit relationship. Guys, on the other hand, I'm not going to call them. If I have got a problem at midnight, I'll figure it out myself, or, you know. And so, especially with our younger men in this world, I see so many of them as clients that go, you know, I never had anybody to look up to. I've never had anybody to model after. And I have 3 grown sons myself, all the way from late 40s to early 30s. And there is so much I wish I could tell them, you know. But then again, a prophet's without honor in his own country. So, you know. It's
but
like,
how did we get to this point?
I think society did that to us. And I'm going to also say that, you know, we blame everything on COVID, but I'm going to blame this on COVID as well. Because we went into an area of isolationism. Some of it we had to do, others of it we got used to it. And I'm going to be really honest with you. One of the biggest addiction issues, not chemical addictions, is phone and electronics.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And people have gotten so dependent or addicted to scrolling that they have lost the talent, the skill of interacting with other human beings. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if you get angry, you can send a really nasty text, hit send, and you feel better, and you've just damaged somebody, bombed them big, or you can say, oh, I love you, and hit it, send, and never see them again, and you don't feel bad.
And I'd love to chime in here, just mentioning one of the core pillars of the Community for Conscious Aging is confronting the culture of ageism. And so I think that for folks that are over the age of 40 maybe, we've been growing in a culture that says that getting older is an era of decline, whereas the Community for Conscious Aging talks about it as a chapter of greater fulfillment, purpose, and passion. And so this workshop is focused on intergenerational connection. So it's allowing folks that are in those later stages to be in conversation with younger men. Just within the Jung Center, we've observed that women are really highly likely to participate in community programs like this. So we wanted to be sure to carve out a space where men can have those conversations as well.
I want to ask a question about the wording that you said there and curiosity about philosophy behind it. You said conscious aging. And I would almost think what we've been taught is really to get a full life, it should be unconscious aging. You're aging, but don't pay attention to that. Live your life in the moment, stay active, because when you start thinking about aging, you start thinking about getting older and the problems that come with getting older, and you start to find more problems for yourself than if you're just in the moment saying, every day I'm here and vibrant. So talk to me about the philosophy and the terminology.
Yeah, you're telling us.
Yeah.
Well, I think if we buy into the, I'm getting old, and I'm 71 and I'm having the best life I've ever had. This
but
is
you
great.
think every day, I'm this old. This is how many years old I am. I've become what they call an old. Or do you think each day, I'm alive and vibrant and it's happened?
Totally that.
Yeah.
Totally that. I don't have time to think about the other crap.
Yeah.
I really don't. It's like,
What do you do when you, let me ask you this, what do you do, because you and I have known each other for a long time, when we see our friends failing? And it's a very strong reminder that we are all aging.
We are. I think so much of that, though, is that how we view that. You can either view it as a new experience and maybe a challenge, but an experience nonetheless. But the only thing that's fatal is taking the last breath. Other than that, let's keep learning. And that's what the Center, the Community for Conscious Aging does, is it helps us think, experience new experiences, find new things and new people. And especially with the male demographic, they're very comfortable not finding new people in a lot of instances. And also the responsibility of I've got to try to climb the ladder and make as much money as I can so I can get to retirement and have the biggest nest egg possible, get the kids through college, take care of that, see your spouse a little bit of time per day. And it's like, I don't have time for anything else. I may go to a baseball game or go fishing, but that doesn't necessarily bring on close personal relationships of people you really know.
Right. And I'm curious, Jim, as a clinical sexologist, how does your expertise help shape some of the conversations that you are having with these men?
Mostly guys don't want to admit that they're anything less than perfect. And we're all still 23 years old in our head. Yeah, baby, and that's not reality, Part of this conversation, this workshop, is really about how our physicality changes. And I will tell you, Fat Boy here has been at war with his body most of his life.
Are you talking to me?
Never. But the thing of it is, when we are so busy downgrading ourselves and, I can't talk to them because what might they think about me, And all of a sudden you have cut out so much potential interaction. And to really get to know somebody, and you know them warts and all, and you've been through the good times and the bad times, those are the people that we love doing that, and we feel like that adds a richness to life that if you're playing Lone Ranger your whole life, when somebody has a real problem and we as guys can't fix it, then it becomes a problem.
It comes down to being honest with yourself.
Very much
in so many ways. Before we run out of time, Sarah, can you give us the nuts and bolts on this? When does it start? Does it cost? How does someone get involved with the workshop?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find all the details on our website at younghouston.org. If you click on Get Involved and then under Events.
Spelled Jung.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
And so many people say Jung.
Yeah.
It's Carl Jung.
Jung.
Started the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it starts on April 23rd, and we'll have several sessions at the Jung Center, which is in the Museum District.
It's right there on Montrose?
Yes. Yeah. It's 4 Thursdays, and the very last session will be held at Buffalo Bayou.
We're having hamburgers and hot dogs and
guy time. And that's why we're getting fat, right?
Hey, only one time, so that's only a fourth of the time.
Sarah Garcia is the director of the Community for Conscious Aging at the Jung Center of Houston. Jim Benton is a certified clinical sexologist affiliated with the Jung Center. Sarah and Jim, thank you both for joining us today on Hello Houston.
What a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for your time.
Yes,
and
thank you so much.
Celebrating change to create our best selves will take place across 4 Thursdays, as Sarah mentioned, from April 23rd through May 14th. For more information, visit theyoungcenter.org. And coming up, we're going to continue discussing today's top headlines. We're going to also talk with Harris County District Attorney Sean Teare. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
And younghouston.org.
Younghouston.org.
Okay.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Doran Mayhew, a
Science. Astronaut Leland Melvin says his interest was sparked literally when his mother gave him a chemistry set.
I created this explosion. I burned her carpet. She ran in the room and, I got a spanking, but my brain was activated to science.
Activate your brain to science on Science Friday from WNYC Studios.
Science Friday, every Friday, 1 p.m. on News 88.7.
We are going to have a chance of showers this afternoon, about a 60% chance of rain. The high getting up to 83. Mostly cloudy skies tonight, a low near 72. And then for tomorrow, a 30% chance of showers. Currently, it is 75. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, President Trump is scheduled to address the country tonight on the Iran war, with White House saying he'll provide an important update. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines of the day. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also talk with Harris County District Attorney Sean Teare, who will discuss the recent arrest made in the infamous 1990 Lover's Lane cold case.
And I'm Frank Billingsley, plus Houston teen Sam Slobin, founder of the Friendship Basketball Association, will tell us all about the program he created for special needs kids.
Also, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The U.S. Supreme Court cast doubt on President Trump's argument for limiting birthright citizenship. Trump's executive order says children born in the U.S. to parents in the country illegally, temporarily, or even with a long-term visa are not automatically eligible. The ACLU argues that order violates a constitutional provision under the 14th Amendment. Here's NPR's Carrie Johnson.
A number of the justices at the center of the court, from the Chief Justice John Roberts to Neil Gorsuch, another Trump appointee, to Elena Kagan, an Obama appointee, raised some questions about the Trump administration's case. Roberts said their arguments in some ways were quirky and idiosyncratic. Kagan called them esoteric. Gorsuch talked about how the Solicitor General John Sauer was reaching to sources in Roman law to make his argument that the 14th Amendment didn't mean what it says.
Now, Trump was the first sitting president to attend oral arguments at the Supreme Court. NPR's Nina Totenberg, who has covered the High Court for decades, noted the White House imposed a new restriction on how journalists covered proceedings.
Before the proceedings started, the guards told us to sit down, and I very clearly said, this is our job, is to look and see what's going on in this courtroom, at least before the proceedings begin. And they said, well, I'm sorry, this isn't our decision. This is a new rule that the White House imposed on us. So I didn't see anything.
Election officials say they will challenge President Trump's decision to have the federal government play a role in mail-in ballots. NPR's Ashley Lopez reports.
President Trump signed an executive order Tuesday that seeks to create a list of U.S. citizens who are eligible to vote in each state. The order also instructs the U.S. Postal Service to administer and track mail-in ballots nationwide, which is currently done by local officials. Legal experts and state election officials are calling this effort an overreach.
In the U.S.-Israel war against Iran, Israeli medics say a child has been critically wounded in an Iranian strike. NPR's Daniel Estrin has more from Tel Aviv.
Medical officials say the young girl and several others were wounded when Iran fired a cluster munition, a missile that opened up into smaller warheads. Israeli media is reporting Israeli defense officials anticipate increased Iranian missile fire as Jews in Israel prepare to celebrate Passover this evening. In a televised speech, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu echoed the biblical Passover story of the 10 plagues in ancient Egypt. He said Israel had dealt 10 plagues upon Iran and other enemies in the last few years of war. Israel is not believed to be playing a role in U.S. efforts toward Iran's ceasefire negotiations. Netanyahu's foreign policy advisor, Ophir Falk, told NPR,
"We're negotiating with bombs."
Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. TSA pre-check lines are back open at Bush Intercontinental Airport as the airport begins to resume normal operations. Terminals A, C, and E are now open to screen passengers for both standard TSA and TSA pre-check. However, pre-check is not guaranteed and may change day to day based on staffing. The airport says Clear will remain closed until the airport can maintain consistent operations. The airport closed its expedited screening lanes on March 23rd due to the partial government shutdown, which forced TSA agents to work without pay and led many to call out of work. Security wait times are currently under 10 minutes at all terminals. NASA's Artemis II mission to the moon is expected to launch this evening from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Leading up to that launch, engineers are pouring hundreds of thousands of gallons of liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen into the rockets. NASA isn't expecting issues today, but said that this could be a moment to watch for potential issues. Here's Jeff Spaulding, Senior NASA Test Director.
The first thing we would probably be looking at is a recurrence of these events that happened previously, right? So once we get in a fast fill on hydrogen, that is where we had the previous issue where we had the leaks. We believe that we've solved those.
The 10-day mission will take 4 astronauts around the moon and back, the first time anyone has gone to the moon in more than 50 years. News 88.7 will continue to cover the launch throughout the day, including this afternoon at 5 p.m. when NASA expects to launch. At the Houston City Hall, more than 100 people signed up to speak yesterday evening in support of an ordinance intended to curtail coordination between the police department and ICE. The change would prohibit officers from detaining people for certain immigration warrants. Hani Halil is executive director of the Texas Gulf Coast chapter of the AFL-CIO.
When workers fear that interacting with police could lead to deportation and harm to their families, they're less likely to report crimes, take their kids to school, speak up about unsafe conditions on the job, or even report to work, making all of us less safe and the economy more vulnerable.
The matter will be taken up by the City Council next week. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance with Snapshot, which monitors safe driving habits to determine a personalized rate at Progressive.com. Not available in California or from all agents. This is NPR.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston.
Hello.
Second hour on Hump Day.
Yeah,
it's blowing up out there, I'll tell you.
We often have a lot of interesting questions and conversations on the show. Boy, people are reacting to earlier topics.
The birthright citizenship that's on the Supreme Court right now with Donald Trump front and center. I guess he row one. I guess he is.
I don't know the layout in the court. I've seen some pictures. He seems very intimidating, very heavy drapes. Desk up high.
Well, this
the
is
justice
the court.
Is there. Yeah, this is a court.
We did get quite a few texts from our listeners. Somebody wrote in the U.S., the left in particular often compares our education and health systems to the EU. Yeah. When you look at citizenship rights, the EU does not practice birthright citizenship. Instead of citizenship, it is inherited. It's funny to me how we pick and choose what we want to emulate from these countries that we often tout as having best practices in social areas until conforming to their standards become in an agenda for the right. Then the left condemns it as being racist and cruel. I would love for us to return to a more neutral media and reporting environment versus the flood of opinion shows, including yours, that often lean in one direction or the other. There you go.
Yeah, I agree with you on most of that. I would say as far as our show...
Not me.
I mean, you,
the person who texted. I want to clarify
yes,
that was not me. That was just reading somebody that texted.
I will say, I think that in our little panel here, I think we come at all different sides of the issues. I think we may not be extremist on either side, But I do think we try and find a balance in there. And that's also the opportunity for you to call in and share. And we invite different opinions, different calls, 713-440-8870. If you fall on a different side of this issue, we welcome your comments just as much as anyone else's. So always feel safe.
You know, Barbara Canetti makes the point, if the court finds birthrights not legal, will parents need to bring their birth certificates to the hospital to prove they are citizens, and who will be checking? Which is interesting. It's like you get your little suitcase ready to go to the hospital, and honey, make sure we have our birth certificates, or maybe that's checked by the hospital you're using before the baby is born, so that that's on file. And then what's to say that the fake birth certificate industry won't explode? I mean, who checks to make sure that the birth certificate is really valid? And this is going to be an absolute administrative mess.
Yeah, well, that goes back to what we were talking about in the first hour, which is right now it's an absolute born here citizen. End of story.
Right.
As soon as anything else happens there, somebody is making decisions. And that leads you down the path of somebody deciding, are you worthy of being a citizen or not? Are you here? What were your intentions for being here? How long were you here? Why are you here? I just worry about the slippery slope we enter into. Now, you could say, but that's not, other countries do it differently. Let's look at how they do it. Okay, I'm open to other ideas, but
not very many do it like we do it.
Right. I just think we need to, absolutisms help in some regards.
Well, even Lori makes the point that after hearing about the tours to bring numerous women here on a tour solely for the purpose of having their babies, I don't think that should be allowed. I had no idea. That should be illegal. But how do you know if that's... How do you know how to make that assumption that they're here for the reason of having their babies here? They just happen to be pregnant, and they happen to have their children while they're in America.
Well, I also know that when in the U.S., oftentimes your OBGYN won't let you travel after a certain
but others will.
Time.
Right. You're not supposed to.
Right.
But when
they'll tell
did
you
they come up with
you're
that?
not supposed to be traveling, at that moment.
Yeah. In Mexico, to become a full citizen, you have to speak Spanish, speak and write Spanish. You can't just speak English. That argument has been made before, that if you don't speak fluent English, you should not become a citizen of a primarily English-speaking country.
I worry for a lot of my friends.
I know. I think that horse has left the barn. But Mexico does have a residency program for temporary residency and then permanent residency and then citizenship if you desire that. That's kind of how we go with a green card and then a citizenship. Maybe we should pay more attention to the levels of becoming a U.S. citizen and do. The problem is we're a victim of our own success. We're a great country and everybody wants to be here.
And we did also receive this email, Birthright Citizenship from Dynamic Mind says, I believe Norway has it through blood while the U.S. has it through soil. Norway is a socialist-like society. A lot of people are confused at the details.
Oh, that's a good point. I like the verbiage, through blood, through soil. Nice way to put it.
We have a call, by the way.
Oh, and we should take it. It's 713-440-8870. Esteban from West University. What's on your mind?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm just curious and frustrated that the constitutional right to birthright citizenship is all of a sudden up for debate when I would think it's probably the most explicit one in the Constitution. Then are other rights up for debate, like the Second Amendment? Our founding fathers wrote that when they didn't know you could go and 3D print a gun. So are they, if we're adjusting to current times, then should we revisit the whole thing? It just doesn't make sense. Either we do one thing or the other.
I hear what you're saying, Esteban. I think that's part of the reason why the Supreme Court rehears cases at different points during our history, re-examines these issues, because times do change and interpretation, understanding changes. But then we fall into the trap of, okay, sometimes we want to reinterpret and re-understand, and other times we want to find what was the letter of the original intent. And so it's exactly what you're saying. Where is our balance at? Are we always going back to an original intent of every single law, or is it the current situation that influence it?
But the right to bear arms, I don't think included an AK-47 in the hands of anyone other than military. I don't think it includes grenades for someone.
Right.
They just didn't know. So you have to go and reinterpret and see, where does this make sense?
And TC Houston 4285 says, you sure do offer different opinions between right and left. Believe me, I've yelled at my radio more than once before I realized that differing opinions are a good thing. Love your show. Thank you. TC
Thank
Houston.
you for getting it.
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes we get mad at each other in here, but then we're all friends when it's over. And that's how our whole society should be. You should be able to have these difficult conversations, have different points of opinion, but then come back together and break bread. And I mention that because it's Easter weekend coming up for many people.
And today is the first day of Passover, starts at sundown.
So you're going to be around a lot of family probably. So keep a cool head as you discuss these issues.
You're going to be eating a lot of matzah out there.
Yeah.
Jen in Clear Lake says, why should we punish babies because their parents are not legal? It seems messed up.
Yeah. Lots of different opinions. I'd be very curious to see how the court comes down on it. We have a lot on the show today. We have new, fresh topics to bring in a little bit. We're going to be talking with the Harris County District Attorney Sean Teare about the Lover Lane murders. There's an update on that after 30-some years, 36 years. So it'll be interesting to hear that. But also the weather outside, Frank. It's looking...
Yeah, it's a little murky, and it's going to continue to be off and on spotty showers the next few days. The bigger chance for rain comes with another front that moves through here as we move into the weekend, which of course is the Easter weekend with a lot of outdoor activities planned on Sunday. I would have a plan B at this point, but I'm not giving up on Sunday.
How did you say that a minute ago? What? Were you channeling your inner Dowager Countess from Downton Abbey? A weekend?
I always say it like that.
I know, that's so funny.
I always get made fun of because it's the end of the week. It's the weekend. And Kevin always says, no, it's not the weekend. It's the weekend. And I'm like, the weekend are the people that are not the strong ones. They're the weekend. Anyway, I've always said weekend because it's the weekend. Fin de semana.
Thank you for that. We're going to go to the phones. We have a call on the line at 713-440-8870. Professor Jay is on the line. What's on your mind?
Hey, guys. Good morning. Listen, we are almost all aliens. Unless you are of Native American descent, your people came from someplace else, either by force or by choice. And whether you have the last name of the President of the United States or my last name, you came from someplace else. So to compare us in terms of what's going on in Norway, where everybody there is Norwegian and of Norwegian descent and ethnically Norwegian, or Japan, where everybody is ethnically Japanese. No, and we are 300 million. We have an entire freaking continent as a country where normally this would be like 17 different countries. No, we don't compare. That's the whole point. And that was, if we go back to the founders in the 1780s and putting the Constitution together, that's what they recognized. We needed people. We always had a shortage of labor. We always needed people, boots on the ground, starting with Virginia in 1607. So we are not to be compared. We are unique in that way, that we are a nation of immigrants. And
Professor Jay, I see why your title is Professor. You make us think. Thank you very much for calling in and sharing with us.
And we also got a text from John. 28 other countries have birthrights. Birthright citizenship. Yeah.
Yeah, but everyone wants to be here, I think, is the professor's point. Well, as I said, we're a victim of our own success. We've made a great country, a welcoming country. We've made it easy to come here. We've made it easy to stay here until the last couple of years. And now we're making it very difficult. And I think that goes to your wider point, Ernie, that the reason we make it difficult is because we want to make it difficult to vote, because we want to control who gets elected in this country.
Well, and just to wrap up what Professor Jay was saying, too, unlike those other countries where it was generation upon generation of people from the same land coming up and building a country, we were a country made by people who came here to create a new country outside of...
And stay here.
Right. And outside of Native Americans and those that were part of the land also. But we brought in people from everywhere to create this country, and to now say we have created a new race, a new group of people that then can say this is who we are and that those folks are others, it may seem to fall against the original idea of this country.
Absolutely it does.
Yeah.
I'm with them.
Okay, let's move into the headlines because we got more stories to get you worked up about. Here we go, Celeste.
There's a lot to discuss. President Trump is set to address the nation on the Iran war at 8 p.m. Houston time tonight, Wednesday, with White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt saying he will be providing an important update without providing further details. On Tuesday, the president said he expected the conflict to be over in 2 to 3 weeks, adding, "We'll be leaving very soon," and promising gas prices would then come tumbling down. You can listen to coverage of that speech right here as NPR's coverage starts at 8 on News 88.7. A couple of other things that are happening. President Trump also has plans to splash his name across a sky-high presidential library in Florida. And he released a 2-minute video of renderings showing a skyscraper towering over the rest of the Miami skyline, emblazoned with Trump's last name and an American flag beneath a red, white, and blue spire. Also, in other President Trump news, a federal judge in Washington temporarily blocked the construction of a $400 million White House ballroom. The Trump administration appealed the order. President Donald Trump has heavily touted the 90,000 square foot project, which would stand on the site of the now demolished East Wing. What are your thoughts? Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. There's a lot to digest. Will you be watching the president's press conference tonight? What are your thoughts on the presidential library? And should the ballroom plans move ahead? 713-440-8870.
So much, Celeste. How do we digest all of this?
I like the word stop. Stop the war. Stop the high rise, stop the ballroom.
Okay. I'm going to challenge you on one. You know, he wants to build his presidential library.
It's going to be as tall as the Transco, the Williams Tower.
He can do whatever he wants when he's building his library.
It will dwarf the Miami skyline.
Well, that's for Miami to worry about. You know?
No,
it's a
presidential
land has
already
library.
been given.
Right. You can do what you want for your libraries. We never interfere with other people. I don't know if they're.
You shouldn't do what you want with a city skyline.
That's
what
the
if you wanted
problem.
to put? What if you wanted to put it in the Galleria and not
First
in our
of all,
downtown?
the Galleria has to say you can come and build it here.
Okay, let's say
Miami
they did. Let's say they
come
did.
And build it here.
And he wants to put one a little taller than the Williams Tower, which is the tallest tower in the world outside of a downtown area.
Yes.
And he says, you know what? I want to be taller.
Okay.
You'd say okay with that?
Yeah. I couldn't care less.
It's really interesting, right? Because it is a lot to digest, but I think the president has put himself in a very difficult position because there's multiple messages he's trying to send at once.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say the first and the biggest one that is we are on the global stage is what's happening in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of uncertainty. You know, he needs to give an update. There's lots of questions around it. People are really starting to feel the pinch from an economic standpoint. You know, I think we're looking at gas prices. He feels the pressure because people are seeing it at the pump. So you also have to, there's a lot of caution and context there that I think that the president is realizing he needs to address.
Right.
The other thing is, you know, we look at the library and the ballroom, and it fits into a broader narrative where we really are looking now at limits of power, his presidential legacy. There's a lot at stake. He's put himself out there wanting to be involved in multiple things. Now he is, and the country is looking at him as, what are you going to say to it?
To the naming part, and to clarify what I'm saying about the library should have his name on it.
Well, it should be 50 stories tall.
Do whatever you want with it. His name should not be on the Kennedy Center. His name should not be on those kind of things. He should not be doing that. But your presidential library is your presidential library.
But have you been in a couple of them?
Yes. And
okay.
most of them are very refined.
3 stories, that's all you need.
Okay.
You don't need 56 stories of presidential library.
If a presidential library is supposed to reflect the presidency of the president that it's honoring or remembering or is an archive for, trust me, an extremely tall building with his name on it is a perfect example of his presidency. So I don't have a problem there. I have a problem when it's our buildings. I have a problem when it's tearing down parts of the White House. I have a problem in that area.
Braden Arnold makes a bold prediction that the important update is going to be boots on the ground. Why else have we shuttled 50,000 troops to the Middle East?
I have one comment on that, too, that the problem with the war is that in so much of what happens in the Trump presidency is he can create the narrative, But when the Straits of Hormuz are sealed and ships can't get through, no matter what narrative the Trump administration wants to put on it, if you still can't move the oil, people are aware of it. So he can say the war is over, or the war is going good, or he's in charge. And you can see for a fact what's happening. So I think that's become a sticking point.
It's a global issue now.
713-440-8870. Let's go to Mark from A-Leaf. Mark, welcome to Hello Houston.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love y'all's show.
Thank you, Mark.
Definitely. And I find myself agreeing with Frank. Stop it all, but especially the ballroom, in the sense that no one's ever approved it. No one ever got permission to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a total Trump thing. You just start tearing down the East Wing. What are they going to do? Feel like it's illegal. And if anything needs his name on it, it should be this war. It's the Trump war.
If you're doing naming rights, name
there
that.
There you go, Mark. I like that.
And I'll tell you what, the Kennedy Center has got Trump up there with double stick tape because whoever's our next president is just going to take it down.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's not always going to be the Trump Kennedy Center. Most of what he's doing for Republican wins, because he's not always going to have all three branches of government.
Right.
And I think like-minded, level-headed people become, in the middle of the road in this country will finally take over after he's pushed us so far into craziness. And if he's putting boots on the ground and thinks it can be done in 2 or 3 weeks, it's just another conflicting story. The last I heard, he was bored with the war, which to me also is very reflective on his attention span, his ability to stay focused on things. It's always a big false narrative that you just keep repeating. If you've read The Art of the Deal, he talks about the big lie. Say it enough, and everyone will start to believe it.
And that's why I bring up the Straits of Hormuz. There's one, he can say whatever he wants, but it's having transportation impacts on our oil commutes. So
not ours so much as Asia and Europe.
All over the world.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling, Mark. We appreciate you, everybody who joins us on Hello Houston. Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with Harris County District Attorney Sean Teare about the Lover's Lane murders. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
I'm Scott Tong. Surging oil prices brought on by the U.S. and Israel's war on Iran are now raising fears of a global economic slowdown. Analysts warn that if the war continues, it could destroy demand for energy and could trigger a downturn, perhaps similar to the 2020 COVID shutdown. Next time, Here and Now.
It's coming up today at 1 o'clock.
DEI is being dismantled, but it's not dead yet.
80% of people support the idea of equality and fairness, and I don't even know what argument the other 20% would be making in this context.
What comes next for those interested in working toward equality and how to build a multicultural meritocracy? That's next time on Think.
You're going to listen to Think is coming up tonight at 11 o'clock.
Support comes from Pearland, a community dedicated to growing innovative businesses and inspiring families, offering a diverse workforce, modern infrastructure, and schools, parks, and more. Details at pearlandedc.com. Pearland, innovation lives here. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Last week, authorities arrested Floyd William Parrott, charging him with capital murder in the 1990 killings of Garland Atkinson and Cheryl Henry. Prosecutors say Parrott may have posed as a police officer for years and could be connected to other crimes. The breakthrough didn't come easy. County investigators worked alongside the Houston Police Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to finally make an arrest. To discuss how this decades-old case was solved and what led to this breakthrough, we're joined by Sean Teare, Harris County District Attorney. District Attorney Teare, welcome back to Hello Houston.
Thank you, Celeste. I, as you know, love being here. Ernie, Frank, it's so good to see you guys again.
Yeah, you've been kind of busy, huh?
Well, yeah, but, it kind of comes with the territory.
Before we get too far into this, let's take a moment to find out who this young couple was. I mean, they were human
And
beings.
let's also put the term on it. A lot of people know it as the Lovers Lane murders.
Right.
Yeah.
And, a lot of big cities have Lovers Lane murders because while that's a place for young people to go be alone, it's also a place for predators to find them.
I never thought about that.
So this young couple, they were how old, and their whole lives ahead of them?
I mean, Cheryl was 22. Andy, who his first name is Garland, but everyone knew him as Andy, was 21. He had just moved down here to go to U of H from North Carolina, where he was from, less than 3 months before this. They had only been together for 6 weeks. But they were spending every night together, just hanging out. It was this brand new, fresh summer love that who knows what it could have turned into.
Sure. Thank you for that. I just wanted to put a sort of a human face on all
Absolutely.
of this. Yeah.
So this happens 1990.
Yep.
Of course there's investigations then. Of course people are trying to figure this out. It goes on. It doesn't become a cold case, as I understand, but leads get less and less. Years go by. 36 years later, we hear of this arrest, and everyone's like, huh?
Right.
What led up to that arrest? What triggered or pointed toward this gentleman?
Mm-hmm.
And did it have anything to do with, if I remember correctly from what I know of this case, there was another murder 4 months before, possibly. There was some DNA there. That DNA had some match to the DNA at the Lover Lanes murder. Is that what helped us find this person? And can you go into this?
So I can go into it somewhat because the most important thing going forward right now is to make sure that Floyd William Parrott faces a jury of his peers that aren't biased by prior reports and can ultimately decide both guilt, innocence, and a punishment. But to go back, yes, this was investigated incredibly thoroughly and well back then. August of 1990. Sergeant Billy Belk was the homicide detective assigned to this case from that day, from when Cheryl's body was found initially. And he's written hundreds of different supplements over the years. He kept the case from 1990 to 2007 when he retired.
But then continued with it, too. It hasn't let it go.
Never.
Yeah.
He was at the press conference.
Right.
We brought him in the week before, and, we're kind of rehashing some things to make sure we had all our ducks in a row and got to tell him that this had been solved. So he never let this case go. But you're right. It didn't go cold, so to speak, ever, because we continued to work it. And every 5 years, every 10 years, there was some break, some reason for hope internally and with the family that some new piece of evidence surfaced.
And I'm curious about that. Even though this was a case-to-case DNA breakthrough, are you using familial DNA searching more and more in cases? And, where you trace a family tree using available DNA profiles, how useful is that to now, shed light on old, cold cases?
It is. We've been using it in this case since 2017 at least.
Explain just a moment what that is so people understand.
Familial or genealogical DNA is every person has unique DNA, but it comes from 50% of your mother and 50% of your father. And we are able to determine whether or not people are siblings or
so
the mother or
related
father.
Folks now can show in a DNA. It doesn't have to be a perfect match of a person. You can find familial connections.
That's exactly
and build
right.
into it.
And you think about like Ancestry.com. You upload yours, or 23andMe. You upload yours, and it will tell you in their family trees we have 5 new connections that are 3rd generation removed or whatever. So in law enforcement, we're using that as well. When we have an unknown DNA profile, we're putting it into the databases that we have and getting information that we have a third-degree cousin or something like that. And then we've got to start building the family tree to eventually identify a suspect.
I found a lot of relatives in my search for family that way, but I'm optimistic that that whoever kidnapped Nancy Guthrie will be found eventually. But it is a matter of time, even with such fast results. I mean, DNA didn't even exist really in 90. I mean, you could take it,
right?
And if they'd committed a crime somewhere else, you could compare it, but you didn't have this expansive spider web of genetics. And like you said, 2017 is when because even when it started in 2013, so few people actually had, it wasn't the Thanksgiving, dinner it is now,
right?
But what about this? Will it deter people from saying, you know what, I put my DNA out there, and it just might show everybody that Uncle Bud it's not the guy who thought that he was,
And we see that to an extent in the commercially driven DNA databases now. When the Golden State Killer in California was identified, there was not. It was really cutting edge. So the commercially driven databases didn't know to protect themselves from law enforcement searches. They have now kind of stopped cooperating.
And now, because I think if what we feel about DNA, if our general knowledge base of DNA was what in 1996, I think O.J. Simpson would have been found guilty. But I think people they didn't understand it. They just were like, what is this DNA? If it's not a fingerprint, it doesn't count. So what is your experience with this? And what are the legalities of DNA?
Well, DNA is unquestionably the gold standard in identifying people. It is so far and above comparing fingerprints. Just because fingerprint interpretation is quite frankly something where just a human being looks at two different, a latent print and a known print, and compares them. When you have DNA, it is a true marker. It's a number of markers which identify that person uniquely. So DNA, I think it has been well settled that we are.
And a jury now understands it a whole lot better.
Of course, and a lot of that is thanks to CSI and all the other things. But it's settled science.
Let me take you back to Lover Lane's case. And from what Celeste was asking, and my question, I'm assuming, and I think anybody watching this would kind of make this assumption, whether you want to support it or not, that yes, that DNA that we were talking about between these two different cases and the familial DNA helped you build a profile and look and find someone that we didn't know back then.
Right.
Back in the day, there was reporting, and there seemed to be a connection into maybe a gentleman's club and a bouncer, and a connection between one of the victims here and the woman that was in the earlier 4-month case that did survive the attack. And it had something to do with a father or a relative of. Is any of that still valid, or because of the DNA you built, it takes you on a different path?
It does not take us on a different path. What we have done since we identified him, and now that we let the public know who he is on Friday, we've been painting a picture of him. It includes the fact that he was working at a number of gentlemen's clubs throughout the 80s and early 90s. We believe that there are victims out there who were working there as well. One of the victims that we tied to this case through DNA was a dancer at one of these clubs. And so it's all come together to help us identify this individual. But we didn't have a name on that profile. We knew that the previous sexual assault was the same person that had murdered Andy and Cheryl, but we didn't have a name for either of them. Once we were able to really review things, we were able to discover that we had a DNA profile, or we had the potential of a DNA profile of a person who we knew the name of from a kit a rape kit also back in the 90s.
So his DNA matched his own DNA.
Correct.
It wasn't a matter of a cousin that matched or anything like that.
But because of how long it takes to fill out a familial genealogical DNA tree, we truly believe, and we'll know definitively in the next few months, we would have gotten to this individual through the genealogical tree. It just takes so long to get each new person on that tree when we can't go to these people and say, we'd like to get your DNA, because we could be talking to the suspect without knowing.
Oh. Which, I find it really interesting that obviously this case was 36 years ago. And when you crack something like this within your department, what type of dynamic, what goes through your team's mind? Are y'all all of a sudden like, okay, we need to go back into all of our files and we need to reopen all the cases. We need to look at what's going on decades ago. Like, talk to us about the mechanisms that happen within your department when you are able to make this type of inroad.
Yeah, the joy that we all got. It was a Sunday night, and Samantha Connect, who is in charge of our cold case, called me at home to let me know that we'd had this breakthrough. And my 11-year-old was in the room, and I start literally jumping around the living room. And he's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "You're not a little young for me to share this." But we pivot immediately. And the Houston Police Department cold case squad, and I've got to specifically talk about Sergeant Mike Barrow and Sergeant Rich Rodriguez. They've worked this case, and because Sergeant Barrow really put fresh eyes on the 1,000 pages of offense reports at the beginning of this year, it's the reason that we got this breakthrough. So it was all hands on deck immediately. We start thinking about what other missing people who fit the profile of these victims, because we knew at that point of what 3 of the victims looked like, and they're all relatively similar in appearance. So then we start going through that, and we're looking at old cold cases, we're looking at sexual assaults, we're looking at everything in the past, because now we have a suspect to tie it to look at. Did someone report this person? Did his name come up in any of these reports? And we've just started. I mean, we have just started, and that's what's ultimately going to tell us and guide me on what the ultimate punishment needs to be in this case.
Okay, 3 things. So first, where are we on the extradition of him coming? Is it signed? Is the governor on board with it? Is he coming to Texas?
Yes. So I signed the governor's warrants yesterday afternoon. It is in the hands of Governor Abbott right now. We anticipate, because as you can imagine, we've been in pretty close contact about this. We anticipate it being to the Nebraska governor by the end of this week. Best case scenario, which in government work is never actually what happens, it is going to be, we could potentially have him back here by the end of next week.
And for people who aren't following the story, he is out of state. And so
he is in Lincoln, Nebraska.
And it takes governors to do the work they do.
They always move.
And you said by the end of next week?
That's the best case scenario.
Another part of it, the whole story of him impersonating an officer or security person, do we know more on that?
So he was arrested and charged at least 3 times in Harris County for doing that in the 90s. We know of numerous other times where he had interactions with law enforcement, and they, on 2 occasions, arrested him for having a gun but not charged him with the impersonating a police officer. So he was doing this very regularly throughout the 80s and 90s at least.
So he was a serial killer. Maybe.
I'm not there yet. But if and when we find more victims, we are not going to just sit back. We're going to charge them as well, because I think those families deserve the same hope and closure that the Atkinsons and the Henrys got.
Well, when you put police lights on your car, you have a motive.
There's a problem.
So third in that, three tier questions I had for you. When you look back at the actual night of the crimes, and we have heard different stories, they're not together. They're in 2 different locations, relatively close, but not together. There's signs pointing to where the body could be with a golf club and golf balls and all, and it's a horrific crime scene from what we understand.
It is.
Have you folks been able to build a timeline of what actually happened? When, who was put where, and who was killed how, or is that still murky?
It is still as murky as it's been. It's very strange to deal with a case that's 36 years old and got the media attention over the decades that this has. So the offense report is out there in the public. And typically we hold things close to the vest as law enforcement so that we can do that. But in this case, everyone knows so much about it. We don't have any more clarity as to who was killed first, who was killed second.
What went down that moment.
How it happened. Except to say that we have a lot of indications that this defendant continuously held himself out to be law enforcement, which is one of the things that none of us could ever explain as to how someone could subdue two young, very fit people by themselves.
You say two people by themselves. There was talk, if I remember correctly, of being two people committing this crime.
Right.
Are we still thinking that could be a possibility, or are you folks on the idea that this is the sole perpetrator?
So until we get a clear picture, anything's possible. But when you have someone who, by all accounts, was in possession of handcuffs before and after this, and by all accounts held themselves out to be a police officer, it now goes a pretty long way to explain how he could have subdued them both by himself.
If he fills in the gaps for you, will you deal with him?
That is something to be determined, because the punishment that was available in 1990 is different than it is now. And the punishment now, you have life without parole to ensure that this individual at any point couldn't get out without the death penalty. In 1990, which is the punishment that we are bound to abide by here, the most you can get other than the death penalty is life with the parole laws of 1990, meaning he would be eligible for parole in 15 years.
How old is he?
63 or 4, depending on the birthday.
He could make it.
Is he? What has he said or his attorney said? Has there been any communication there?
Nothing yet. We anticipate that to ramp up when he actually gets in the state, in the jurisdiction.
Has he committed any crimes in Nebraska?
Our information is that he hasn't been in Nebraska for very long.
Okay.
He kind of fell off the radar, but somewhere in the neighborhood of a year. Otherwise, he's been in Texas. He's been between here and Montgomery County. And so he's had some.
Could the move have been because it was heating up and he was leaving because he knew that, do you think?
I mean, look, this case really garnered a lot more traction in post-COVID 2021. There was a 2023 special and then a 2025 special.
Has he lawyered up?
Well, in a capital case, we're not going to try to converse with someone without having an attorney.
Right.
We're going to check every box. We're going to do everything the right way.
I just wondered if we had a name of his lawyer yet.
I certainly don't have it yet.
Yeah, I am curious, just, what do you think it is when we look at cases like this that do get so much attention from the public?
You talk about two beautiful, young, vibrant people. You talk about two families that are just devastated by this. And it's not like we don't have tragedies like this in the county of 5+ million all the time, but the unknown, the fact that we keep going and this family doesn't know what happened over the years, it grabs the
heart of people.
We are out of time, but what I want you to do is one more time give that plea out there. You did it at the press conference about people who have seen or know, or please explain.
Yeah. The picture of this defendant that we shared from 1990 and one from 1988, the police car pictures that we showed that were not police cars that he was driving at the time of these murders. If you recognize him, if you know him, if you came across him once, if you worked with him, if he pulled you over in the 80s or 90s and you were doing something you weren't very proud of, call us. We need to know. We need to know every interaction that anyone has had from this individual from at least 1985, when we believe he started doing this, until 2017, when we know that he was at least still doing something akin to this. So anyone that has ever run across this guy, give us a call. And so far, the public has been incredible in doing this.
Nice.
So keep coming.
Harris County District Attorney Sean Teare, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you, guys.
Coming up, how one local man gives back to his community through basketball. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Thursday makes it 1 year exactly since President Trump decided to tariff the whole world.
And we see it almost every day now, where new negotiations or new agreements are being reached without the United States.
I'm Kai Rizdal, the rest of the world taking its trade and going home. Next time on Marketplace.
You can hear Marketplace at 6:30 on News 88.7.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe. R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul. Music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support comes from Woodlands Waterway Arts Festival. Over 200 artists, authors, music, food, and family activities at the Woodlands Waterway. April 10th through 12th. Open for kids 12 and under. Tickets at thewoodlandsartscouncil.org, where dreams take shape.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Our next guest, Sam Slobin, is an 11th grade teen volunteering with the Friendship Circle of Houston. That's an area nonprofit that works to build an inclusive community for those with disabilities through various volunteer, social, and educational programs. Through Sam's experience with the nonprofit's Friends at Home program, in which he helped mentor a young neurodiverse student, Sam was inspired to create a basketball program for special needs kids based on their mutual love for the sport, which resulted in the Friendship Basketball Association. He joins us now to tell us more about the program. Sam, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hey.
Hey.
I gotta say, Sam, right off the bat, I love that the premise of this is more like a club and instead of like a volunteer. You are volunteering and you're giving your time, but I like that it's, there's this element of community to it. Talk to us about what it means to you that you wanted to start this.
Well, everything about this league has just felt amazing to do.
Yeah.
I've been able to really help Ollie. He was my buddy, and he was the whole reason I created this.
Yeah.
It just started from us hanging out every Sunday to me creating a basketball league for him. He would always talk to me. He would always talk to me about how much he loved basketball.
Who is this he you're talking about?
Ollie. He's my buddy. I met him around 4 years ago when I first started Friendship Circle through the Friends at Home program, which pairs you with a buddy, Ollie, who.
And he's neurodiverse.
Yes.
Explain what that means to us.
So,
on the spectrum, or something more.
So, there's through Friendship Circle, all the kids have a wide range of needs, and it could be neurodiverse, it could be nonverbal. It just varies on the kid.
Okay, so let's get back to Ollie. You meet Ollie 4 years ago, and what happens?
So, we clicked from the start. Me and my friend Teddy. We started hanging out with him on Sundays for an hour. It started just volunteering, but it turned into something much more than that. He used to become like such a brother to me, and it's just been amazing to hang out with him. And it was one Sunday we were hanging out, and we were talking about basketball, and we were playing basketball actually, and I asked him if he was a part of any leagues. And to my surprise, because of how much he loved basketball, he told me he wasn't, and it was right there. It was like a light bulb moment. Yeah. I saw an opportunity to help not just him, but other kids through Friendship Circle and create a basketball league that was inclusive, and they would gain a lot of team building skills, and I became a better leader through it.
Well, it's funny because I think so many of these kind of programs that are out there feel as though they are, like we were saying, volunteer or service organizations where you couch yours as it's a basketball league. Come and play basketball. And I think it removes the stigma for a lot of folks, and the inclusion of it makes it feel like this is what you want. Be part of life. Don't feel like you're excluded because of, but included because of. You know.
I'm guessing there weren't a lot of basketball teams for neurodiverse people until you came along and started creating them.
Well, not that I know about.
Right. Yeah. So how many are there now? Is there like how big has this grown to be?
So right now we have 2 teams.
Right.
When we go into the practice, no one's on a team yet, but halfway through we divide the teams up, and then we just scrimmage. We just have fun. We don't really have a lot of rules, and we just play.
Just have fun. That's a good rule.
It's just have fun.
How many kids are you working with?
We started off. We just had our pilot season that ended, and we are currently in our second season. We started with 2 to 3 kids, and now we have, I think, 8 to 10.
Nice.
And we try to work in some volunteers into these teams so they can keep the kids. Well, just help them through the games. Like make sure that everyone gets a shot, make sure the vibes are high, and make sure everyone has fun.
And how does a parent or someone listening get involved in this?
Well, you can reach out at friendshiphouston.com, or you can email us for more information at, I believe it's info@friendshiphouston.com to get involved.
You know, Sam, I'm curious why you wanted to branch out and make a whole basketball league for kids with disabilities or that might be neurodivergent. Why did you feel that, why not just keep playing with Ollie and your buddies? Why did you want to make it bigger?
Because I really wanted to give Ollie the opportunity to be a part of a league.
Yeah.
Because growing up, I've been a part of so many different leagues. I've been able to play sports. I thought there's no reason why he can't also be a part of one.
Yeah.
Well, and that smile when you make that hoop, when you make that touchdown, is it expanded into other sports, or is it right now just basketball?
It's just basketball.
Yeah. What would be your dream if you could just wave it and make it happen?
I want to expand the FBA to other friendship circles around the country. I know there's some in Florida, I think Miami, and around Texas too. I think that's the goal, like to give everyone this opportunity, maybe with other sports too.
I think basketball is one of the, I guess, I wouldn't say easier, but it is a ball that you dribble and you shoot, as opposed to holding a bat and trying to hit a ball is harder. And then football can be very difficult because you're trying to catch a ball from a long way away. So I think basketball is perfect for this.
Yeah, it's the perfect sport.
But, I'd also imagine that you're giving a relief also to a parent of a child, like Ollie's parents, who would love for their child to be able to play basketball and do something, go out there and have an hour where they get to be just a teenager where the parent isn't having to support their needs. What type of reception have you seen from the families that, building this program out?
All the families love it. They actually come to every single practice that we do. There's like a line of parents. They're just cheering on the sidelines.
Yeah.
They all come up to me after and tell me how much their kids enjoyed it. And Ollie's mom actually tells me that every week that it's the highlight of his week. He always looks forward to it.
Do they call you Coach Sam?
No.
Why not?
I'm curious when you think about all of this, when you see what's happened, how do you view the work you've done? What's the impact it's had on you personally?
I mean, I've just become such a better leader. I think it's really opened my mind to just trying to give as many opportunities to these kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think there's a little bit of a stigma amongst young people, feeling like, well, they're a little bit different. I don't know. Do you feel like you've kind of broken down some barriers there within your own friendship group of friends?
Honestly, I just think they're just kids. They're kids just like us. There's no reason to view them differently.
So 11th grade, have you picked your college yet?
I've not picked a college yet.
Well, there's one you're sitting in right now. Because what are you going to do? I mean, are you going to go off to college and leave this behind? Can you do that, Sam?
Well, the goal is to pass it on to one of the volunteers, and I want to keep this going for as long as possible, of course.
Oh, I'm sure the parents and the kids want to go as long as possible also. So we're going to expand this thing. And tell me one more time the website where you go to.
friendshiphouston.com.
That's
excellent.
Easy. Yeah.
Sam, thanks for joining us today. Sam Slobin is the founder of the Friendship Basketball Association. Sam, one more time, if people want to get involved or they have, somebody that they know, a young person that would love to play basketball with you guys, where can they go to find more information?
FriendshipHouston.com.
Perfect. Thank you.
And guys, that brings us to the end of our show.
FriendshipHouston.com.
That's right. We want to thank you for watching and listening to Hello Houston today. We'll be back with more conversations tomorrow. We're also going to share, it's Thursday. What does that mean?
Current obsessions. I'm obsessed with FriendshipHouston.com.
Current obsessions. And we're going to share, and we hope to hear from you as well. This is News 88.7. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public